so grateful to be here, to have the opportunity to represent our artists. I'm going to share a bit of my journey to start ArtLifting 10 years ago, but then really focus my time here today on our artist stories. This journey begins in 2006, when I was a college freshman. During college, I did volunteer social work, helping individuals get jobs, housing, access to food banks. And I learned a lot during those 4 years. One of the things that I learned was my clients desperately wanted a job, but due to mental health challenges or the recession in 2008, they just weren't having luck getting jobs. I'd hear, Liz, I want a job, not a handout. And for years I thought, how can I expand the definition of a job to include more people in the economy? That's a much easier question to ask than to answer. So I just had that in the back of my head for years. And then switched careers to be an art therapist in homeless shelters in Boston. When I was working in 2 women's shelters, learned a ton. One of the things that I learned was there was incredible artwork that would literally get stuffed in the closets of the 2 shelters. And while that sounds like a very unique job, being an art therapist in shelters, it's actually not as unique as you'd expect. There are over 1,000 existing art groups in shelters and disability centers in the US alone. So that made me think about, wow, that means there's 1,000 closets full of artwork, and a lot of that artwork is saleable. This was such an aha moment of this could be my way to expand the definition of a job to include more people in the workforce. 1 in 4 individuals in the US have a disability, and 77% of them are unemployed. I think about the billions of square feet that this room is in charge of, and how we could work together to get that number closer to 0. We won't get to 0%, but could we get to 76% and then 75%? And continue creating jobs for artists like Charlie French. I'm really proud of the impact that ArtLifting has made over the years. We started with just $4,000 of our savings and have scaled to tens of millions of dollars of art sales, with the majority of the profit straight back to our artists like Charlie, or to our artists like David and Yvette, who you've seen live painting throughout this weekend. After starting in Boston with $4,000 of our savings, we've scaled to work with from 4 artists in Boston to 200 artists in 35 states. And 500 corporate partners, many of whom are in this audience right now, are the reason that we've been able to grow and expand our impact. I'm going to share the stories of 3 of our artists and then share examples of their work in space. First, this is Scott Benner. Scott and I met a decade ago. When we met, Scott was homeless. The way that he became homeless was what he called the perfect storm. In 2008, the place where he had worked as a steel worker for his whole career laid him off. He was applying and applying and applying to jobs, but didn't have any luck finding one. Then, within a few months, he was diagnosed with a rare disease called Horner syndrome. Horner syndrome makes you unpredictably dizzy and confused. So all of a sudden, he couldn't even apply to steelworking jobs because it would obviously be dangerous if he was operating heavy equipment when one of the bouts of confusion hit him. Then the perfect storm continued, some more, and Scott's wife was diagnosed with cancer. All of this happened within 1 year. Scott and his wife had done everything right. They had 6 figures in savings in their 401k. But that money ran out quickly, with both of them suddenly unemployed and having really extreme medical expenses. Throughout Scott's life, he had been an artist. While his full-time job was as a steel worker, he always created art on nights and weekends as a way to relax. It's truly incredible to see what Scott can create with just a pen and a sheet of paper. This is his true masterpiece. He created it over the course of 1,300 hours, over 6 years. When I was just floored when I saw this original 10 years ago when we first started working together. And Scott was like, "It's easy, Liz. You just start in the middle and go out from there." He didn't add for 1,300 more hours. It's been really inspiring to see him soar in his art career. Before we met, he had never sold a piece of art before. Now he's in offices around the world. He even spoke at an employee engagement event at Google. This is former Governor of Massachusetts, Deval Patrick. Governor Patrick purchased Scott's work to hang above his desk when he was at Bain Capital. This is Scott on the Today Show and the cover of the New York Times business section. Scott's work has also been licensed. You may have seen it on Starbucks gift cards or on Mohawk rugs, taking the art from the walls down to the floor. Or through West Elm, you can buy, as an individual, you can buy his work. One of my favorite Scott licensing partnerships is with the mattress company, Lisa. Scott and I laughed 8 years ago when Lisa approached us and asked if we wanted to partner, because we thought, don't you put sheets on mattresses? But this partnership, we're so grateful that Lisa approached us, because this partnership made Scott 6 figures. Scott has housing now. His wife survived cancer, and he's been really proud to be a working artist for the last 9 years. I want to switch to a different story about another artist who's incredibly resilient. This artwork was painted by Mia Brown. Mia happens to have cerebral palsy and isn't able to paint with her hand. So the way that Mia creates work is using her magic wand, as she calls it. Mia shares, "I'm an artist who happens to have a disability." And her artwork is around the world as well. This is in Amazon's HQ2 and in Independence Blue Cross Blue Shield. This is that same artwork transformed into a wall covering in Google's office in San Jose. You may have seen me walking around wearing Mia's artwork this weekend. This spring, we were really proud to launch a partnership with Jansport. My favorite part about the bag is on the inside. I have to give my colleague Michael a shout out for working with the Jansport team to ensure we shared Mia's story and our other artist stories. I love the portrait of Mia But also I love thinking about all of the people who now are wearing Mia's artwork and story and are inspired by her resilience. One of my favorite parts about the partnership is you may notice a backpack on the back of Mia and a side bag here. Jansport worked with us to create adaptive bags that have clips, so no matter what disability someone has, they're able to use the bag. When you see this artwork, you probably just think, wow, that's a beautiful, sleek office. But then when you zoom in, do you notice anything interesting about this artwork? Feel free to yell out. Exactly. There are tire marks along the bottom edge. Artist Eric Santamaria, like Mia, has cerebral palsy. But unlike Mia, doesn't create artwork with a magic wand because he doesn't have the neck strength for that. But Eric found a way to create. I was blown away when I first met Eric 9 years ago. I had never seen anyone create art with their wheelchair with the canvas underneath them. I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to work with Eric over the last 9 years and give him the attention he deserves. Eric is also in offices worldwide, and if any of you are flying through LAX, you'll see his artwork in Delta's LAX lounge. Last year, we launched a partnership with Pottery Barn, and there were pages and pages of coverage for Eric and our other ArtLifting artists. Pottery Barn also generously donated furniture to Eric that was accessible. When I think about Eric, I think about innovation. When I'm having a bad day and plan A isn't working out, I think about how for Eric, plan A of painting with his hand didn't work, and plan B of painting with the magic wand didn't work. But he pushed and still found a way to create using his wheelchair. We've heard from our clients that hearing stories like Eric or Mia or Scott has inspired their employees, has made them feel resilient on days when things aren't working out for them as well. I know after seeing this artwork and hearing these stories, if we're not already working together, everyone's like, yeah, let's work together. But I also know you need to use data to create a business case to create partnerships. And the data is clear that art is good for business. As Riaz talked about yesterday, our goal as real estate professionals should be to create meaningful connection. But how do you do that? How do you prevent people who are forced to return to work and bitter about it? How do you prevent them from all sitting separately on their Zooms and not talking to each other? You can't really prevent that, but one tool that you can use to encourage people to interact is artwork. And a national employee survey showed that our employees feel that art reduces their stress and art increases their productivity. Obviously, ArtLifting is unique because of our artist stories. So we always make sure to share our artist stories right next to each artwork. If the artist is verbal, we share a quote from the artist and their bio. These stories help create inclusive environments. And the data also shows that inclusive cultures are good for business. Companies with inclusive cultures are 6 times more likely to be innovative, to anticipate change and respond effectively, and twice as likely to meet or exceed their financial targets. We always want to make sure that people seeing the artwork also understands the big picture. So we have partnership plaques that share that. One fun story is a biotech reporter for the Boston Globe happened to see our plaques next to artwork about a month ago. And he was by this piece. It's a 20 by 20 foot ArtLifting artwork by artist Rudolph in Foundation Medicine's headquarters. And this reporter was intrigued by ArtLifting's story. He had just seen plaques and artwork from ArtLifting in Eli Lilly's headquarters a few weeks before. So the reporter reached out to us, and in a surreal moment, about a month ago, we ended up on the cover of the Boston Globe business section. Artist Lisa Murphy took up the entire top fold. You're probably curious of what exactly does ArtLifting do? If I wanted to work with you, how would I do that? So I'll give you a quick overview. The most obvious way we could partner is original artwork. This artist, Eric Jensen, takes keyboards that are recycled and dyes the pieces, but then works to create beautiful artworks that are not only aesthetically pleasing, but also have hidden inspirational messages written inside of them. I want to also give a shout out to Peter Van Emberg and the CBRE team, who have been die-hard ArtLifting supporters for the last 8 years and have artwork in dozens of their offices. The artist behind this original artwork is a paper cut artist named Alan Chamberlain. Alan uses an X-Acto knife and hand cuts each sheet of paper. So the piece of paper almost looks like lace. Alan was one of our first 4 artists in Boston 10 years ago, and it's been unreal to see how his patience and skill has led him to create endless artworks. Another obvious way we could partner is through art prints. I'm really grateful to Bank of America. We're partnering with them on 1,500 banks so far, and they've expanded their investment and inclusion, so we'll be in 2,500 of their banks by 2026. Post-COVID, one of the more popular options for corporate offices is renting prints to be able to keep the space fresh. And oftentimes we'll have corporations wanting to represent all of their employee resource groups with each art selection. One example is Google. We're working together on 20 offices so far. And one example of how an employee resource group of yours could be represented is this is artist Stacey Johnson, who's an Air Force veteran. So with Veterans Day coming up in a week, you could have Q4, and a future year, feature veteran artists, and then different ERGs represented. Artist David McCauley, who's been painting upstairs all weekend, has artwork in Warner Media headquarters in Hudson Yards. This is him art lifting his artwork at his home in Florida. And David's sitting right here. Good view. We don't just do art on walls. It can also be transformed into glass film or acoustic felt or even phone booths. You'll hear from the artist behind this work, Lisa Murphy, via video in a minute. We can also do wall coverings. Many of you have met artist Yvette by the registration desk live painting. I love that Yvette wore camo, a dress to exactly match this wall covering at the opening at Verizon's office in Texas. You can also work together outside of your buildings. Heinz has been a longtime supporter of ArtLifting's mission and just launched this artwork on Scrim at the new skyscraper that they're building above Boston South Station. This artwork is 107 feet long and is one of the largest pieces of public art in Boston. The reason ArtLifting exists is to champion our artists. Artist Nick Morse and I have worked together for the last decade. And while Nick is mostly nonverbal, whenever he gets the check from ArtLifting on the 15th of the month, he paces with a smile. Nick knows he's earning his own money, and he knows that his artwork is being appreciated. The stars of the show today are our artists. So I'm gonna show a 2-minute video so you can hear directly from them.
I'm a Black, gay, disabled woman with anxiety and depression and arthritis.
One day, going into the shelter and you get searched completely. And the guy was very nice, but he saw my pad of paper with some sketching on it.
While I was going through chemo, that I actually found ArtLifting and was really, really excited.
We won't allow to express our inner thoughts, our inner emotions.
And when ArtLifting came on, it was just like, wow, I can sell images of my work.
I was really sick. I was really tired. I had a little basket and I had crayons.
And he said a company has come by and did a presentation where they're selling artwork.
And when I finally was able to start calling myself an artist, it really gave me the freedom to be me.
ArtLifting is a guiding light. They find me who I am.
Just an amazing opportunity. I was so glad.
This is my chance. And by the end of that year, I was out of the shelter, happier than I've ever been in my life.
Finally can have a paycheck that covers my bills, and there's room to grow.
The artists at ArtLifting create incredibly high quality art informed by their experiences, and their experiences are so deep and broad that it seeps into their art.
The artists that are behind some of the pieces and the story, it creates a sense of community that's so needed.
Beyond their physical challenges, beyond their life experiences, ArtLifting sees the talent and the artist
and help forge an emotional connection to the place that they're passing through or working in.
Hearing about other people who actually created and overcame is something that also inspired our employees.
It has really changed my life to be in so many ways legitimized.
Helping me develop my career as an artist.
That I could take a bad word like cancer and turn it into something that somebody frames and hangs in their house.
It's impacted me in ways that I didn't even imagine were going to happen. I've been making enough money with ArtLifting to live off of, which is impressive.
Together,
we are
ArtLifting.
We are ArtLifting.
We are ArtLifting. When I watch that video, I feel grateful. I feel grateful to our artists for trusting ArtLifting to represent them. I feel grateful to so many people in the audience for choosing to support our artists. And I feel grateful to my amazing, talented team for working tirelessly to represent our artists. Thank you.